The opinions expressed on this podcast by the host are solely the host's own opinions. The hosts do not represent the opinions of the producers of this program, who bear no responsibility or liability for the program's content. The purpose of this podcast is intended to inform its listeners about financial planning and investment issues for qualified individuals and investors. The hosts are receiving no compensation in connection with this podcast. Many of the topics and opinions discussed may be of a personal nature, and some people may disagree or find opinions expressed on this program objectionable. Nothing on this podcast should be construed as investment advice or an offer to invest.
Good day, everyone. Welcome to the Financial Freedom Emergency Room Podcast. I'm your co-host, Tim Black, and with me, as usual, is Thomas Black, MD, the passive income physician.
Great to be here, Tim. How are you doing today?
I'm good. We've got a very, very, very exciting guest today who drove up all the way from Austin, Texas, home of the UT Longhorns.
Yes, sir. So it is Dr. Tom Burns. I am super excited about this interview. God, we've had this scheduled for at least a month and a half or so, and I've been eagerly anticipating asking some questions. So welcome to the show, Tom. Really appreciate it.
Good to see you, Tom.
Yes.
Thank you.
Well, Tom, just to give our listeners a little bit of background, I know you're a Longhorn alumni. You also went to.
Too much about that, but you know.
We'll try not to. There'll be some jabs from you, I'm sure, being a Sooner.
Yes.
So a little bit about you. You graduated from Southwestern Medical School. You're still a practicing orthopedic surgeon.
Right.
Since '91, so you've been doing this quite a while.
Yes.
Right. So why don't you give just a little bit of brief history, kind of on where you are now, and you know your life encompassing as far as healthcare goes, and what's transpired.
So now I'm a principal and co-founder of a private equity company, but I still practice medicine, probably 2 to 4 mornings a week.
Yeah.
I have the freedom to practice when I want to. We run our company. We work in the multifamily world, multi-tenant world, and just trying to create passive income for our investors.
Right, which is, as we know, very important, and that's very near and dear to our heart. Yes, they do. Well, I really want to get into this. So this is over 20 years you've been doing multifamily, not only development, acquisitions. I mean, you've got student housing experience, so you've really run the gamut on this whole thing. How, in 1991, you're coming out, you're an orthopedic surgeon, how the heck did you get started in this?
So it all started a few years before that. It started in residency. I noticed the doctors that were training me were making enormous amounts of income compared to what the doctors are making these days, yet they were still complaining. And I realized that the better I got at my profession, the less time I was going to have, and I didn't want to be complaining like they did. So I started seeking out other ways of possibly having some income that might not be correlated to medicine.
Right.
It took me a little while to figure it out. Went to some seminars, learned all of my financial education outside of that system, and fell on real estate for a number of reasons. I finished my training, went up to Colorado for a year, came back to Austin, and basically started learning on my own. Had some partners, had some friends, had some mentors, started small.
Yeah.
You know, I bought a condo here and a little piece of land there. I didn't do a whole lot of the single family move up to multifamily.
Sure. You just jump right in.
I started kind of quickly with a lot of student
unusual.
Properties at the University of Texas.
Right.
And that's still doing well.
Did they pay? Yeah,
They did.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
So that's still working. You know, not as many ups and downs as the football team. But I started there, met some people, met some partners.
Yeah.
And, you know, good partners are hard to find. And had some good ones, had some bad ones, made lots of mistakes.
Right.
And had a few
learn
wins.
from those mistakes.
Yeah. So moved up more and more, and eventually developed a large medical center, developed student housing, started into the multifamily world and acquisitions and development, and that's just sort of ramped up until it came to a point that my current partner and I decided to formalize it even more. We had a company since 2010, and we sort of pivoted the company and renamed it about a year ago to Presario.
Okay.
So this is a new iteration of our.
So
of our
same
partnership.
company, new name, basically.
Exactly.
So you're none of the same. The core values and everything else still there. It's
Same
just a
values,
new moniker that you guys have gone on.
And so that brought us to where we are today.
That's fascinating. So there's not, you know, in residency, and I think of you mentioned going to Colorado. Was that early faculty kind of a thing, or was that fellowship?
That was fellowship.
Fellowship. Okay,
Yes.
so you're a fellowship-trained orthopedic surgeon that gets into real estate.
Yes.
And so when you talk a couple of mornings a month, where's your time split, do you think? I mean, you 80-20?
I'm probably 75-25.
Right.
And I practice because I like it. I meet
Right.
20 people every
75% real estate, 25%.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Let's just
I just wanted to make sure that our listeners got that. I thought that was the
Yeah,
case.
so I still like it. I enjoy it. And to be quite honest with you, without sounding egotistical, I've been in a position to retire for 10 years.
Right.
And so,
Which is a great feeling.
Yeah, so it's been great. But it made medicine nice. So I enjoy what I do. I have great help at the office. I've got somebody that can be there when I'm not there. I'm here today. There's somebody else there. I can say tomorrow I'm not going to be there unless I have surgery.
Right.
Take care of them. So, I've worked 2 days this week and 3 days last week and none the week before. So, and I'll take a month or so in the summer vacation because I can run my real estate company.
Right,
from
from a
anywhere.
distance.
So real estate provided that freedom for you.
100%. 100%.
Right.
So
And
it's
it was
just-
by design.
It was.
I mean,
Yes,
this
sir.
wasn't an accident. So
No.
so if you were somebody tuning into the show right now and they're working out or they're on their commute home and there's an orthopedic surgeon in Atlanta, Georgia, and he's sitting there thinking, wow, Tom Burns has got it together. What is the one piece of advice that you could give them to say, listen, it's not going to get better, or I know you're tired, these kind of things. So what advice would you, if you weren't yourself then and you didn't realize and have that foresight, what do you tell somebody?
I'd tell, get some education,
Right.
learn. If they're watching this podcast, you're already getting some education. But learn, see what else is out there, because, boy, it's a liberating feeling to really enjoy your work.
Right.
And if you enjoy your work and you want to enjoy it more, find a way to get some passive income. If you don't enjoy your profession, which there are folks out there that are in burnout phase, if that's the case, there is a way out. It's not a magic pill. It doesn't happen right away.
Right.
But it can be done. Learn, get some mentors, get some partners. There's things that can be done. Start with
So
education.
you mentioned a few minutes ago real estate. That
Yes.
became kind of your avenue. Why real estate?
For a number of reasons. It's a hard asset. I like to touch, feel, and smell what I own. But as a physician in particular, you can do it alone or you can do it with partners. And, doctors, they do a lot of stuff alone. They are
Yep.
the Lone Rangers. We
Right.
are the Lone Rangers.
Right. Well, we're taught that way. We're taught to be
We
independent
are.
thinkers, and it's
Absolutely.
contrary, and that's what's so hard about it.
And it takes
Yep.
it takes a bit of humility to learn to work with some partners, but work with some partners. It can be done full or part-time, and you can leverage other people's time, knowledge, and education.
Right.
And so it fit for me. I could play doctor, so to speak, in the morning. Early on, I was playing doctor or whatever, 6:30 to 5 in the afternoon. My real estate career started at 5:30. There were a lot of people in town said I was lucky. They just didn't realize I was working until
Yeah,
midnight.
right.
every day.
right.
Yeah, it's funny how that 10 years, you're a success overnight. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so, it can be done anytime. And so, little bits at a time, those little bits of passive income, they add up after a while. They start making babies, and eventually, you've got some substantial income coming in that's
Right.
not coming from your medical world.
Which is, then that's the point. You can step away and look and say, wow, I've really created something fun
Yes,
here.
absolutely.
So, very good. Very good. So, in your bio and I read a little bit about your background. So I'm assuming that, I'm putting two and two together here with Colorado, and that's how you ended up as I assume you're the orthopedic surgeon for the U.S. ski team?
Yes, one
So
of.
that's Colorado.
Not
One
the-
of.
yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's still,
I'm
right?
the guy
You're
today.
the guy.
So I did a fellowship with a gentleman called, with the Stebbins Hawkins Clinic. It was a relatively high-powered sports medicine fellowship, and he was the head physician for the ski
Really?
team. So took care of the Alpine team one year, and then in the summer of '91, I was the physician for the Olympic Training Center in Lake Placid.
Oh, wow.
And it was
What a cool experience.
It was in Lake Placid that I met the freestyle team. If y'all have ever watched the Olympics,
Oh, yeah.
the guys
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
jump up and do all the flips.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, I got to be real good friends with them. I was young and athlete. I'm a frustrated athlete, which
Right.
is why I'm an orthopedic surgeon. Nobody was
great.
going to pay me to do what I did. So they put me on the trampoline, they trained me, and I was the first physician to qualify to jump in competition.
Get out.
Yeah,
Really?
So
Wow.
it was a lot of fun. So I
That is a
wasn't
hell of a story.
foolish enough to do it. But
Right. Oh, okay. That's what I was going to say. Wait a minute. So you got there.
Yeah, I got there
Pull
just
the
could say I
trigger.
did. But
Well, yeah,
so
that'll-
now we travel around the world. I go with them to World Cup events, and so last time was Minsk, Belarus.
Really?
What
So,
an
yeah, travel
amazing
the world.
experience.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I bet it is. And then, I mean, that's got to be liberating also that you don't, I mean, you can leave the orthopedic practice,
Sure.
go do this. Totally just a different poker in the fire, right?
Right,
Big
exactly.
deal, big deal. Well, I'm really excited because there's one topic, and I know you probably get asked this all the time. And you know what's coming, don't you?
I do, yeah.
You do. Tell me the story. So for those people that are out there, you know, I wouldn't say the Bible, but one of the things early on in my career in residency was reading Rich Dad Poor Dad. I mean, that was really what transcended, and it was, some people take it literally. I mean, to me, it wasn't a roadmap. It was just an idea change in how you think about things, right? And so I read it in residency, and I'd been harping on Tim for a decade, saying, "Hey, you got to read this book." And it's just, it changes how we were brought up and how we were taught to think about
very
money.
much so.
And over time, it really shifted things, and it's provided me with just the world. So, for those that don't know, that you were actually mentioned in his book, and so how did that come about? And I mean, I've been trying to piece this together, and I can't even find a roadmap.
See, well, it's and you're right. The book is awesome, and it's not a how-to.
Right.
It's just a thought process.
Right.
book.
Exactly.
And I think that's what caught me.
Right.
So the stories, it's unique, I guess. I was always a reader, so as you know, even from residency, I was reading books on real estate and things such as that. And back in 1996, I think it was, I was getting my car washed, and on the back table was this intriguing book with, you know, pretty colors. It's something about rich dads and teaching kids and money and things like that. I just said, put it on my bill. I was getting my car washed. I took it home, and about 11:30 that night, I was actually going to bed, and I just kind of flipped the cover to see what I was going to read one day. I got a little bit intrigued, sat down. About 3 or 4 hours later, I was finished with the book. And it was 3 or 4 in the morning, and I was jumping around like Bluto on Animal House. I didn't know what to do.
And so you had been an orthopedic surgeon for 5 years then.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
gotcha.
So, and I was already on my path. I was trying to create passive income at the time. So this thing resonated with me perfectly. And there's a particular graph in there that just I've had in my head since that time.
Right. I know which one you're taking off.
And so I didn't know what to do. And I waited till about 6:30 in the morning, woke a friend of mine up and said, "I just read the best book I've ever read in my life." I said, "You have to read it." I got it to him. He read it in a day. And on the front cover, there's a phone number for the publisher. So we got to know who this guy is.
Right.
So we called the number, and we expect to get, you know, XYZ Publishing, and I'll get you in touch with the author.
You know what's coming here.
And exactly.
Did he freaking answer?
This is Robert.
You're kidding
The author,
me.
Robert Kiyosaki, answered
He
the
answers
phone.
the phone.
The reason he answered the phone is that Rich Dad, Poor Dad was written as a brochure to help advertise the game cash flow. They self-printed 1,000 copies, and Robert will tell you himself that nobody would take the book. So he self-printed 1,000 copies. The copy that was bought at that car wash was the first copy ever bought in history. So,
You're kidding me. You were the number one
I was the
Where was
first,
this car
original.
wash?
the first
And it was in
book.
Austin?
It was in Austin.
Wow.
Because Robert's good friend, a guy named Keith, who owned the Keith Cunningham, who's quite an entrepreneur himself in
Yeah.
Austin. He owned the
car wash.
So he said,
So
"Hey,
say I'm going to stick him in there
I'm
for
not
you.
selling my books. Will you take a dozen
Oh
of
my
these
God.
books?" So we called Robert and we said, "How many of those books do you have left?" Oh, and by the way, the following day I went and bought the other 11 books. They had
Right.
12 books. I went and bought all the rest of the books and started handing them out. And we said, "How many books do you have?" And he goes, "Well, I sent 12 to Austin, so I have about 988 left." My friend says, "I'll take all of them." So, and we went out to Phoenix. Robert taught us how to play cash flow. My wife won the game, so Robert gave us his game.
Wow.
And you know, we got to be friends. And then we went to his house, and he starts hauling books out of his trunk. And I said, "You know, dude, I don't want to take all your books." He goes, "Nobody's going to buy them anyway."
Are you
So
kidding
we
me?
started passing
That's an
books
amazing
out,
story.
and you know, obviously, it is what it is. It's changed so many lives.
Oh, yeah.
and
No, I mean, it's
that's kind
amazing.
of where the friendship started, and we're, you know, part of where the book started. So, just last December, I gave Robert the original book.
Oh, you did.
Oh, you
So
did.
back
He's
in-
got
that's
it now.
cool.
Yeah. So
Wasn't this because he did the cruise with the real estate guys?
Yes.
And this was his 20th year.
20th anniversary.
20th anniversary
Yeah.
and of the book. Yeah.
Yep.
God, what a great story! I had no idea
Yeah,
that
it's
it was
kind
that
of a fun
profound.
story.
Like, yeah. Wow. Well,
That's interesting.
I'm a little blown away. So, do you have any other family members in medicine?
I do
Brothers,
not.
sisters. So you're the
No.
only one.
I'm the only one.
Mother, father.
You know, Mom was a nurse for a while,
Okay.
but she was not nursing by the time I was, you know, conscious.
But no lineage of physicians that we see so often.
Dad was
in
a
that
federal
kind of-
cop.
Federal cop.
Yeah.
Wow. And I'm still blown away with the Kiyosaki story.
Yeah,
so.
so am I. So
Amazed.
let's just talk about this freedom piece of it,
Yeah.
right? I mean, let's go back. This was kind of your salvation, much like you talk
Right.
about. Let's just kind of, if you're a physician now, today, and you're much younger than both of us and Tom, and you're starting to get into the grind, right? Of being a physician. Where do you go? You're in this tough world. What advice do you have for those doctors out there to start to learn about passive income and creating that pathway?
Well, start here at the Financial Freedom ER.
Oh, there you go.
You know,
Great.
there are a lot of podcasts out there. There are a number of podcasts. There's groups where you can meet that talk about real estate. Real estate may not be your thing. There's there's infinite ways to make money.
Right.
Start trying to get educated. Find out what might excite you. And then I would say, I truly do like the partnering thing, where you can leverage other people's time. Now that partnering you may just be investing with somebody that really knows what they do, but get started.
Right.
The first is just get started.
Just jump
And
in.
one of the things
Yeah.
we say, and we just said this on a podcast we recently did, is investing in wealth it's a team sport.
Absolutely.
Right? You want to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, or not necessarily smarter, but have a specialized niche that can help you take that next level. Because owning 100% of everything like doctors like to sometimes isn't the best thing.
Well put. And and I'll say to my brethren doctors, typically we're used to being the smartest guy in the room.
Right.
And we don't have to be the smartest guy in the room. There are
Right.
people that know things that we don't need to know and that can really help us with our team.
Exactly.
For wealth. So, that's a really good way to go. So just get in the game.
Just jump
Get in the
in.
game.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's great. I've been particularly interested in learning about Presario, right? So tell us, bring us up to date with what you're doing now, what's happening, what you've learned.
Yeah, I've learned. Yeah, well, tough market as always.
Yep.
Yeah.
But we have our niche is in the multifamily world currently on the Class A, because we're developers. So we'll do development, or what we call recapitalization, where we might take out a developer in the middle of his development. So part of the reason we like the Class A property is we like the debt structure. And as your listeners start to learn, it's not necessarily how much you make, it's how much you keep, and sometimes it's the debt structure that allows you to keep more.
That's right.
So the debt structure we use is an FHA HUD insured loan. And so if if somebody buys a house, they get a nice 30-year mortgage. Somebody buys apartments these days, sometimes the length of the term will be 10 or 12 years. And then in our loan product, we get a 40-year fixed loan. And the reason we like that now is somewhat of a defensive posture.
40.
40 years, fixed rate, fixed amortization.
At the lowest interest rates, and what we can say, arguably, probably in history.
Yes. They're
Not a bad hedge.
Yeah, so and we just think, we think interest rates are going to rise, and that's, interest and taxes are your two main expenses. So if we can eliminate that variable and work on the taxes, hopefully we can have some nice returns, stable returns for our investors as things go up and down, because life is waves. It's been a really nice ride over the last 9 or 10 years, and I think everybody, and you and everybody knows that things will change. Doesn't mean they're going to get bad. Right. But we just need to be prepared,
Yeah, they just won't be on fire. I mean, and that's
Exactly.
so. How do you combat, when you look at your underwriting? How do you combat that? In addition to a 40-year note, which is fantastic because you're fixed and you're not going to. Are there any things like, do you anticipate your economic vacancy being a certain percentage so that you can offset your cash flow?
Yes, we do. Yeah, I mean we tend to, and one nice thing about the loans we use is that HUD will actually underwrite it. So there's all kinds of third-party oversight for us. There's the lender's underwriting it, HUD's underwriting it, we are, and then the broker underwrites it, and it looks great when the broker underwrites it.
Of course, it always does.
Yeah.
But, and so we tend to be the most conservative between HUD, the lender, and us. We tend to be conservative, but we put a high economic vacancy, and that includes a lot of things, physical vacancy and chargebacks and things like that. But we'll stress it. Well, even before we stress it, currently the rent growth around Dallas and some places has been really nice. It was up to 8.6% several years ago. And, average in Dallas is about 2.3 or something like that. Well, even Austin, Texas, where I am, our rent growth was slightly negative last year. So we'll put in about a 1% rent growth in our underwriting. Occasionally we'll do 2%. We will stress it to 0 rent growth and 80% occupancy and see how far we can go before we get below debt coverage ratio. So
Interesting.
we stress them out. So we'll do a sensitivity table and show where we can go. And if there's not enough headroom for trouble, then we'll pass on it. And so
Interesting.
we do get a lot of deals brought to us because of the niche that we're in. And we probably look at 25 or 30 deals a week. And we do probably 4 to 6 a year.
Yeah, that's about where we're at about a 2%, something like that.
2%
Deploy capital,
conversion.
about a 2% conversion, something like that.
So how'd you get into development? This is fascinating to think about, from doing surgery to
development.
Now you're in development. Yeah.
By mistake and happenstance. So I was purchasing, my partner was purchasing and had developed some retail centers. And we just we got a good deal on a piece of land. We bought this piece of land. And then this was about 2007.
Right.
Good deal in 2007.
Right.
Exactly. So we bought this piece of land, and then we bought the one next to it, and we had 16 acres or so, and things started turning down, and there wasn't much money out there. There wasn't much debt out there to buy anything. We had this land that had literally a dog fighting pen in it. And so somebody introduced us to this. They said, hey, you ought to look at these HUD things. And we did not know about HUD at the time. So this was 2009 probably by the time we started looking at that. So we were introduced to HUD, and that's how we got into the development. So we literally were the developers. That was our first development.
Really?
And I'll tell you, we had a feasibility study that looked like the market was going to do this, and he was right on. The only thing he missed was it was actually better than he said.
Right.
And so we thought that the timeline for the project was good because we were building right at the trough. But our investors didn't think it was as good as we did. We scratched and fought and truly did the old line of credit card.
Right.
Mom, can I borrow?
You're hanging out there.
We were doing
Right.
everything to get the money, and but we structured quite a deal. It was the first deal of its kind. So the city of Austin needed housing, so we structured a bond deal with them, and
On your first development deal.
first development deal, and
Wow.
they'll typically give a certain amount to a for-profit, a certain amount more to a nonprofit, and they gave us more than that. And in addition, we gave them affordable units, which is what the city wants.
Right.
And they were kind enough to abate our taxes for 99 years. So,
My God. Are you kidding me?
nope.
Wow, you struck the deal of a century
Yeah.
there. So do you have investors coming back going, hey, sorry, I was so hard on you.
Oh, yeah.
Can I go back and put another couple $100,000 in the deal?
Exactly. Our investors love us. That was
yeah.
a good deal, and it
Yeah.
makes us look really smart, but we just did it. It was just timing.
Right.
You still own it?
We still own it. We have, if you want to know I won't give you full numbers, but we owned it. We built it. Took us 14 months to build it, leased it up, and at year 6, we refinanced it, gave the investors back their original principal plus another 80%, and it's still making 13% cash on cash if their money was still in.
Right,
So,
and then
yeah,
they're building up their
You
equity
don't want to
again.
sell it.
yeah, no,
Not
we don't want to
awesome.
sell it
You
now.
kidding me?
Yeah, where are you going to take the money and
Well,
place
and our refinance loan was for 35 years.
Jesus. So that's just,
a reason.
that's literally just you've got an ATM somewhere out there in
Exactly.
Austin that's just printing money.
So that was just going to do
Oh,
its
that's
thing.
incredible.
Yeah.
So tell me, if you have to look back, and that was arguably probably one of your best
Yeah,
best
yeah,
deals.
absolutely.
What was the biggest mistake or learning lesson that you made over the?
I
over
got
the
lots
course?
of them.
Yeah. Any one that sticks out, and we've
you
all
know,
got that one that you're like, wow, God, I learned so much. Great thing.
Yeah. Early on, actually prior to this development, I bought a small apartment complex in a college town, and I really didn't know what I was doing, and that's where I learned how important management is. Found a manager in town that had a good reputation. He put his son on the deal. His son had never done that before. I barely got out of it with my shirt. Got out of that. I did buy a restaurant once. My advice to physicians is not to buy a restaurant.
No.
That's great
advice
advice.
to
That's a
anybody,
great
don't buy
yes.
restaurants.
Yeah, right.
found
Anything
out-
operationally constrained is not a
Exactly.
good business.
I
Yes.
found I'm not a restaurateur. So
Sure.
yeah, and then partners.
Very
I've had some
important.
good partners, bad partners. Some people I've dealt with. Some of them are in jail, and some of them should be. I'll just say it that way.
Yeah.
So it's tough to find a good partner. It's nice that you two have each other.
Right.
Yeah, we've had
We've
some
been down that
trials and
road,
tribulations
yeah,
with
yeah,
partners, and you're
absolutely.
absolutely right. It's a marriage, and
Yeah.
arguably it's probably harder to get out of a partnership than it is a marriage.
Right.
And there's a lot. I mean, it's it's difficult.
Indeed.
So, anyway, Well, how can our listeners get a hold of you if they have questions or any projects that you may have coming up? Love to get you out there and maybe educate and help those colleagues that we have out there.
Well, anything, you can reach me personally at tom@presarioventures.com, and the website is presarioventures.com.
Great. Ask one more question.
Yeah.
How did you come with Presario?
So it's a play on the word empresario. Empresario is the Spanish word for entrepreneur. And the first empresario in Texas was Moses Austin, who was the father of Stephen F. Austin, who founded Austin's Colony, which is Austin, Texas. And we're proud of our Austin roots, and so that's sort of the double meaning of that name.
Interesting.
Oh, that's awesome.
I like it.
Yeah, that's very cool. Well, Tom, this has been a lot of fun. We appreciate you.
It's been great. Thank you for having me.
So much.
Having some coffee and kolaches on the way up
You
from
betcha.
Austin. And go Longhorns, right?
And more on the way. Absolutely. We've
exactly
got a
it.
ways to go.
No, you don't. I think the Longhorns are on the upside.
It's our year. It's always our year, right?
All right. Well, thank you, folks, for tuning in today. We appreciate you joining us in the Financial Freedom Emergency Room podcast. As usual, you can find us at passiveincomephysician.com.
Thank you all.